Hey everybody, this is Perch. As we head into fall here, I think we're all looking forward to the relief of the election being over. I think we're kind of in comic books looking forward to something big to get excited about. What struck me is this Blood Hunt event that's out. It's got a great artist. Arguably one of the top artists in comics. It's got Jed McKay, so one of the top writers that Marvel has, and it's an event, and they're doing a little gimmick about blood issues and everything else, and it feels like there's very little interest in it. And in the past, Marvel could roll out events, and people would care. I mean, even if the event sounded kind of lame, it's the magic of the event. I think is over. I don't know. I've got a friend in Marvel who's like, well, here's, okay, said, here's what we're going to do next year. And we'll see it sounds promising what I've heard them say they want to do next year involving one of the big villains. But all the same, if you go back 10 years, maybe more, 15 years, the idea of the big summer event, it was like the big summer blockbuster, and it's just not there anymore. But anyway, I don't know. Uh, it's comic books need a good kick, a good hard kick, uh, something to get really excited about. And it's going to be hard because there's going to be a bunch of people who, even if you come out with something legitimately exciting, they're going to complain about it because there's a lot of money and momentum and just bitching about everything. So you have to overcome that in addition to putting out something good. It's a tough spot. But let me read this mail. We're going to talk. Here's a really interesting question. I don't remember ever getting this one before. It says, "Dear Perch, always appreciate your show. Hope your wind down takes a very long time. It seems to be. I have a question about college. Specifically, is college necessary to work in comics? I've been listening to some of your interviews as well as interviews from other channels. How dare you, sir? Um, I'm kidding. Interviews for other channels, and none of the comic professionals seem to talk much about college being a requirement for anything. And yet, in several of your videos, you talk about business classes and other higher education tools. Curious if you know if a lot of comic pros actually go to college or not, and if it's a requirement to work in college or in comics. It's a requirement to work in comics. Thanks for everything you do. Okay, cool. Very good. Uh, I, so sometimes I don't like to read the little postscripts that are usually personally nice or things. Those are very, I appreciate them, but I always feel a little weird reading them on the air. Anyway, um, is college necessary to work in comics? No, no, flat out no. In fact, a lot of people in comics have not gone to college, have no interest in going to college. That's not something that they've done. And so in fact, I would say, in terms of the independent creator, in this case, we're talking about the colorist, the letterer, the penciler, the writer. I would say more have not done college than have done college, probably. Um, it depends. There's the different variations. There's a little bit of secondary school. There's like trade schools. There's schools that give you an associate's degree. Things like that, 2-year programs. But if you're talking like if you're looking at the degrees, you're going like associates, bachelor's, master's, doctorate. You're going to find next to I mean I'm sure there's a doctorate somewhere in comics. I couldn't tell you where. Um, I I'm trying to think. With creators, I know of one comic writer who has her master's. I know a handful that have their bachelors, but generally no. And so it's clearly not a requirement to have college experience. If you're working as an editor or as a full time job in a position, then yeah, generally I would say most of that group has at least their associates or their bachelor's degree. So you have that. But again, very few masters, very few doctorates, and you have to get up to like the David Gabriel level to get people with an MBA. to me, especially with where comics are at, I think having an MBA or MBA training would be super, super critical, super helpful. But at the same time, I'm not a believer that college solves all ills. College is a interesting tool to kind of shape. Well, okay. So let me take a step back and explain at least how I view college, which may be different from many of you. Um, I don't think college is a requirement ever for really, the vast majority of jobs, provided that you are self-sustaining, you are able to go get the information you need in a disciplined way, you're able to, manage and put your life in order. Um, a lot of people can't. Even if they say they can, it turns out they can't. And so college in most cases is a shaping exercise to get people to, think about deadlines and, be more structured in their thinking and their approach. And that's probably the biggest value in college. It's one reason why there's a study done of, people who were computer programmers, so software engineers, and you had people who were doing a 2-year trade school. You had people doing an online course, and you had people who actually went to get a master's in software engineering. And what they found was, of the three, there was no there was there of the three there was no clear winner of who was the most successful. If you got to people who went into upper management or kept their job, it was pretty evenly split across all three. And so the theory that was obtained from that was college is a lot about self motivation, and it either brings it out in you or you already had it. But those who don't have it, those who resist kind of the urge to be self disciplined and be able to get that stuff done, they tend to fail no matter what kind of degree they got. It depends on how you look at college. If college is there to kind of postpone you having to go into the workforce and get life experience, then in many cases you're less likely to actually, have that job discipline that's necessary in order to be successful. And there's one big caveat to all this, and that's several professions. The degree, the piece of paper, is actually all that matters, not what you learn there. And I'm saying that kind of tongue in cheek. Obviously, if you're a doctor, if you're a lawyer, there's things to learn in college that you need to learn. Like you need to learn the law. You need to learn, like you're going to be a doctor. It's going to cut people open. You sure as hell better have a good grasp of anatomy and, some of those skills. But by and large, and especially for senior level jobs, if you think about corporate America, the executive suite, the VP and above suite, requires, the Yale, Princeton, Harvard, Ivy League degree as part of the pedigree of the management team. And they do that because they're selling their management team as an asset. And so those degrees matter. For what it's worth, having done consulting in a bunch of those groups, I will say, by and large, I have found that the companies with the greater number of high level Ivy League degrees tend to be the dumbest and the ones that are the most resistant to change, and the ones that tend to quickly outsource all of their thinking to a, BCG or McKinsey or consultant like that. There's something about, I went to go get my degree at, Kellogg University, which always makes me think they're learning about cereal. But I went to go get my degree there, and so therefore I need to go use a consultant. That tends to be, I don't know why. I find that the people who have a more humble college, they went to a state school or, is sometimes still an expensive school. They tend to be more, I don't know, less resistant or less resistant of doing the work themselves, more resistant to hiring a consultant to actually do the thinking for you. Anyway, by the way, that I could go down that path for a while, but anyway, back to comics. There's probably not a job in comics unless you're literally going for like the top 3 or 4 positions within Marvel or DC, where a high level degree is going to matter. I think if you're going for a executive vice president or chief marketing officer or something like that in Marvel or DC, you're probably going to need your MBA. Probably. I think whether you go to, University of Colorado or University of California, or you go to Yale, I don't think it makes a bit of difference in comics. And I think, quite frankly, the latter would probably intimidate people. But overall for you, for the person who wrote in and kind of if you're thinking about getting to comics and how important is college, or really kind of any job, um, the biggest thing you could do is this. Like you have to frame up like, why are you going to college? If you're going to college to, again, have new experiences, meet new friends, travel the world, that kind of stuff, you might want to consider not going to college. There's some people, it's just personality types who need the college experience. And what I mean by that is they really need to kind of live in a dorm and socialize and join a fraternity and kind of fuck around, for lack of a better word. And then there's other people who they just want to start getting paid. And that was me. I was definitely in the realm of, I absolutely enjoy going out and getting drinks with the boys and traveling the world and doing other crazy shit. Absolutely. I just didn't want to pay the college. I didn't want to be paying for me to do that. And I think, if you think about it that way, college is expensive and you're paying a lot of money. And and especially if it's not your money, if it's, dad's money, or mom's money, then you're just, you're using their money to go out and socialize. And I think you can do that just as well, perhaps even better in a lot of cases, without outside of college. You could do it. You could have a good, healthy social life without any of that shit. People met me. I mean, I'm social enough. I seem to get along with people and work it all out. But for me, college felt like I was on the clock and I was paying, and I wanted to just, learn what I could, invest heavily, create good discipline in my life around how that was going to work because I was paying for that privilege, and then get the fuck out and get to work, start making money instead of, I wanted to be revenue generating. I didn't want to be a cost center. And so I think a lot of, if you're going to college, if you're doing these things, just why are you going? Are you going to learn something? Are you not sure what you want to learn? There's a stigma against taking a year off between high school and college, but I'll tell you, if you exit high school and you have no idea what to do with your life, do the skip year. The only challenge is some people do the skip year and then never go back because they're just enjoying the skip year too much. And if you do the skip year and you wind up, getting into a trade that you like, you become a plumber and you enjoy it. A relative of mine went to college to get a psychology degree, got it, discovered they hated the job, decided to become an electrician, very blue collar. Parents were devastated. Guy flourished, loved it, wound up, now he basically got a gig in one of the big hotel chains, pulls in about $320,000 a year as kind of that oversees all these things. He's having the time of his life, and he doesn't have to sit and listen to people's bitch about their problems. So I mean, win-win. So it's all about what you want to do. But for for comics, no. But a degree isn't critical. The discipline and kind of understanding of how to manage your money and all the rest is. So make sure you get that second part. Anyway, agree, disagree, let me know in the comments below, and thanks for listening.